Hey guys, your crazy coach lady Amanda Trombley here, and as always, we are here to talk about discovering the aspects of mental wealth and creating and unleashing emotional freedom in our lives. Make sure, if you haven't already, to subscribe to my YouTube channel, to follow me on Facebook, and to check out my website where all the information and more is available to you on all things mental wealth and emotional evolution. Today specifically, we're going to be talking about sex and the power of stress. And so really our focus here today is exactly how our bodies respond to stress and exactly how we respond to stress and exactly why our lack of sexual intimacy or sexual adventure ourselves in our own personal self is affecting this stress level. And so we're all pretty familiar with stress. This isn't a new thing. We all experience it in some way, shape, or form. And at any given time in our lives, we can all admit to the fact that we are overwhelmed and we are stressed out. There are so many different types of stress. We have environmental stress, we have traumatic stress, we have emotional stress, physical stress, so on and so forth. There's all different kinds of stress that we experience on an everyday basis or at least a portion of our lives. But today we really want to hone in and we want to focus in on that emotional and physical stress that we are feeling. Really, when it comes to experiencing stress, we're experiencing it for a number of reasons. But one of the largest reasons that we are experiencing stress itself is because we are not feeling fulfilled in our own lives. We could not we could not be feeling fulfilled because we are overwhelmed. We could not be feeling fulfilled because we don't have enough self-care. We could not be feeling fulfilled because we have too much going on or not enough good stuff going on. But when we boil it all down to a bunch of different reasons as to why we're feeling stress and what we're experiencing, emotionally it boils down to stress is the absence of fulfillment. Because we all have drama and chaos in our lives. And no matter how smooth and easy our lives go, we're still going to have some sort of out of control situations that we cannot take control of. But it is when we do not feel fulfilled ourselves that this stress becomes overwhelming and becomes the focal point of our mind. And so we're all going to experience stress at some point in our lives, whether it be financial or environmental or emotional. But the more fulfilled we are in our own sacred space, our own soul, the easier it is to move through stress and use our coping skills to pivot from an aspect of a stressful life. And so if you have this weight on your shoulder, and you are really experiencing a high level of stress, this is due to a lack of fulfillment in your life. And the exact same is true when it comes to physical stress. Perhaps you have a physical job, and so you're actually feeling your body's physical stress. Or maybe you're like so many of us to where we actually hold our emotional, spiritual, sexual stress in other places of our bodies. For me, the biggest part that I hold stress is up here right in my shoulders. I can be stretching on a daily basis. I can be working out on a daily basis. I can be really taking care of myself, and I will still always feel and carry my stress in my shoulders and the top of my back. And so not only do we have such a lifestyle of simply just dealing with this emotional stress, but we also have a lifestyle of dealing with physical stress to where we become so untapped from our own physical stance that we start to become numb to our body's natural responses to stress. There's a reason that we're feeling this, and that reason is a warning sign to let us know that it's time to do something about that stress. Because this stress has become so powerful in our lives, it's either affecting us emotionally or it's affecting us physically. But in our daily lives, we become completely numb to it, pushing forward and moving on and deciding to just move against the stress instead of dealing with the stress head on. So if you're anything like me or most of the women that follow me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Stress is something that is really true and powerful to us and something that we deal with regularly. And on top of the multiple different types of stress that we have, we also can attest to having emotional and physical stress in our bodies and our minds. But something that I really want you to focus here on is not just the fact that we are dealing with this emotional and physical stress, but what are some ways that we can really embrace what we really truly desire to allow ourselves to become more fulfilled and ultimately release this stress from our bodies and our minds or our emotionalities. Again, we're carrying this stress in our body and we're carrying this stress in our mind. And whether it be physical stress or emotional stress, if you have been living in a state of overwhelm for any time, you've numbed yourself off, you've shut yourself out from actually experiencing what your body needs. And something that your body naturally needs is to feel fulfilled. Something that your mind naturally needs is to feel fulfilled. So how exactly does this tie into sex? Well, here's just the thing. Your mind naturally craves love and attention. Your body naturally craves love and attention. Together, you as a human being deserves to be loved and appreciated, deserves to be felt and touched and be at one with yourself or with your partner. These are natural desires that we have, and there's nothing to be ashamed here. But what happens here is as we numb ourselves away from what we truly desire, as we numb ourselves away from exactly what we crave, exactly from that fulfillment, we pull ourselves further away from the sexual intimacy and the power that sex itself can have on our lives, whether it's with ourselves or with another person. So often women are shut down to their own sexual energy, to their own sexual power, and into their own sexual desires because of their list of reasons that we all have, reasons that most of us have experienced. Or so many of us go the opposite way, to where we push 110% into our sexual energy, allowing it to be the one coping skill that speaks through our lives. When it comes to using the power of sex to release the power of stress, we want to stay away from both of these extremes. We don't want to move so far into our sexual energy that it becomes the one thing in our life that makes us feel good, but we also don't want to move so towards our stress that we numb ourselves from experiencing the joy and pleasure of our own sexual energy. Now, it's common science that sex is a stress reliever. As our endorphins raise and as we experience the chemicals that are changed during sex or during an orgasm, it's natural and it's science and it's honest to admit that sex is a natural stress reliever and nothing to be ashamed of or afraid of when it comes to scientific. So scientifically, we can admit this. But when it comes to actually experiencing it for ourselves, we have a much more difficult time of connecting to ourselves emotionally and physically to actually experience this relief of stress. And so number one, first and foremost, I just want to say that there's nothing to be ashamed here. It is really super duper important that you admit your desires and that you stop running from them. If you are a sexual being and you have, well, let's just restart that. You are a sexual being. And to deny yourself that existence is really hurting yourself and the ones you care about most of all. And so we want to step away from hiding from our own sexual identity and stepping into creating one that really begins to fulfill our lives. And again, this doesn't have to be with a partner. It is so super duper important, especially for us women, to be able to experience this sexual intimacy and this sexual energy with our own selves and begin to feel completely comfortable. When it comes to carrying stress in our physical body, the more stress that we carry in our physical body, the more we are separated from our sacred, powerful container that we are. The container that allows us to birth children and nurse them up to however many years of age. This is how powerful your body is. And just that exact same power that you are capable of physically, that power is so numbed down when you are carrying stress in your body and pulling yourself away from it. You are numbing out your physical power that your body is capable of having. And you are doing exactly the same thing emotionally yourself too. And so when you are feeling in a huge amount of stress, when you are feeling this physical and emotional stress, you are keeping yourself locked away from total fulfillment. And sexual energy is one of the funnest and simplest ways to do it, without having to spend hours and hours of meditating, without having to buy every program in the world, without having to journal till, the cows come home. We can begin to experience our own freedom by tuning in and tapping to our bottoms. Into our bodies. We can begin to relieve our emotional and physical stress by getting to know ourselves and beginning to understand exactly what fulfillment looks like for us. And sexual fulfillment may have a whole lot to do with physical sex for you, and it may have a whole little to do with sex for you. Sexual fulfillment is so much different from the actual aspect of sex itself, and so much more imperative for the intimacy, the connection, most of all the connection, and the attachment to who we are and how we experience our bodies. If we are shamed by our own bodies, if we are hating our own bodies, if we are talking down about our lives, if we are talking down about our own spiritual and emotional power, we are disconnecting once again from all the things that make us such powerful creatures. And we are adding on to that load of stress. And we want to begin to use sex as a beautiful and powerful way to reconnect to who we truly are and what we truly desire. So I really encourage you in this moment to step away from the shame, to step away from the fear, and just know that you are safe within your own body. And that's the most important thing, that your desires are natural and meant for you, and that there's absolutely no reason for you to feel unsafe or unfamiliar in your own territory. For so long, women have casted aside what we truly want based off of the social or cultural expectations that other has on us, or based off of the way that we were raised or the things that we've experienced. And we want to step away from that now and allow our true desires to bring us into an ultimate aspect of sexual fulfillment, which will in turn release the stress that we are carrying in our bodies and our minds. It's really, truly simple, and it doesn't have to be this complicated procedure, but it does take beginning to be honest with yourself and beginning to be open about what you truly want and what you truly desire. Beginning to voice what you are needing from others and from yourself, and beginning to live in a way that you are paying tribute to your own desires and needs. The more that we pay tribute to our own desires and needs, the more that we begin to feel fulfilled. And the more that we begin to feel fulfilled, the more that stress physically falls off our shoulders, and the more that our mind is open to exploring and experiencing more positive energy. And the easiest, funnest way that we can do that is by getting intimate with ourselves and with our partner of choice. By beginning to honestly own up to the desires and the needs that we have, and beginning to experience our own sense of sexual fulfillment. Although we're talking about sexual fulfillment, what's incredible about your body is that everything is connected, your mind, body, and soul. So as you begin to reach into your own sexual fulfillment, as you begin to break these barriers and experience true pleasure in your body, as you begin to be honest with yourself and allow yourselves to be assured and serious with your needs, you begin to open up so much more. Your spiritual floodgates begin to open. Your intimacy floodgates begin to open. Your emotional floodgates begin to open. And all of a sudden, you begin to experience full life pleasure. To where as the stress falls off physically because you were living in a portion of your fulfillment, you begin to gain the awareness of the fulfillment that you feel that you are lacking in other areas of your life. And you begin to manifest these other areas with ease once our awareness sets in. So when it comes to the power of stress and the power of sex and how we combine the two and exactly what to do about it in order to really bring yourself into the next step of fulfillment sexually, energetically, emotionally, and physically, it all begins with you right here and right now being honest with yourself about exactly what you desire. And if you are not receiving those desires from another person, but you are open to admitting it and to experiencing them yourself, then it's time for you to begin to fulfill yourself in that same manner so that you can begin to release the stress in your lives and tune back into your body. The biggest gap here, the biggest thing that we're facing here is that massive disconnection between who we are now and the power of our bodies and minds. And we really want to do all the work to walk away from this disconnection and focus on connecting to that itself, to the power and the beauty in our minds and our bodies. And we get to do that by simply owning up and first being honest with ourselves about our needs and our desires, and then moving on to breaching that into other ways that you can receive this fulfillment in multiple ways. So for me, sexual experience, sexual energy, sexual pleasures is such an important part of life. And every single video with every single client, I'm always focusing on, regardless of your age, your denomination, where you're at in your life, your financial standing, how many kids you have, whatever's going on, you deserve to receive pleasure. And you deserve to receive sexual pleasure. And getting into this and feeding into your own sexual pleasure by connecting to your own body and being honest about your needs is one of the simplest ways to bring pleasure into your entire life. So there's so much you can do here by simply admitting exactly what you want to yourself and allowing yourself to feel first the disconnection and then push into small steps to reconnect to your desires, to your wants, to your needs, to exactly what you are ready to experience in your total fulfillment of mind, body, and soul. And of course, what better way to do it than sex? That's really all I have for this video. I don't want to get too complicated and too into things because I know for so many of you, this is your first introduction for me. So for a quick recap, number one, we carry stress. No matter how beautiful our lives may be or no matter how much we are lying to ourselves, we do carry stress in so many different ways. But connectively, we carry this stress and connect it to our bodies and connect it to our minds. And the more stressed out we are, the more disconnected we actually become from a safe space within inside ourselves. And the first step to creating this safe space is to reconnect. The first step is truly to admit that there's a problem here, to admit that we are not fulfilled in our lives, and to admit that we need something more. The next step is to be honest with ourselves and others exactly what that more is for us. And the third step here is to begin to experience and take those brave steps to actually call out and call into your own container exactly the desires you have. The more that you use this power of your own body and your own mind in relation to your sexual experiences, the more fulfilled you will feel in your life and the more stress relief you will experience on a day-to-day basis, easily manifested without struggling through the muck of life. I'm so excited you joined me for this series. Please make sure, again, to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook. And of course, check out that website because there's so much good stuff there. Thank you so much for listening here, and we'll see you next time.